back to another edition of Bell Time on GCW. I am the Scoop Lionel Howard along with Old School Johnny Rocket. And we have some commentary here this evening about managers in wrestling.
And if anybody should know about dingy dingy ding bells, it'd be this guy right here.
Alright, wait a minute. Well, first, a manager that most guys remember here in the South is Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette.
Jim Cornette, manager of the Midnight Express, several factions of the Midnight Express, several different combinations of the Midnight Express.
Beautiful Bobby Eaton.
Sweet Stan Lane.
Sweet Stan Lane.
Certainly so. And the thing I always liked about Jim Cornette is just give him a microphone and just let him talk, and he can just talk about nothing and just sell the wrestler.
And he can still talk about nothing, especially in McDonald's drive-ins.
That's right, that's right. Fans out there on the internet certainly know what they've seen there.
And don't even mention ICP.
That's
Jim
right.
Cornette. Oh, that's not even a good thing to do. But of course, Jim Cornette, starting off as an announcer, and pretty much got his kickoff as a manager in World Class Championship Wrestling out of Texas, and finally made it over this way, and has pretty much kept to the South. He's pretty much been true to the South, because I believe most recently at TNA out of Nashville. So we don't really cover Tennessee, but it's still in the South, and of course, Memphis being the home of Johnny Rocket. All good.
That's right, that's right. And also, ladies and gentlemen, another manager that I remember growing up that, again, could just give him a microphone and let him talk was Paul E. Dangerously. Paul E. started out in WCW, had the Dangerous Alliance there with Larry Sabisco and Rick Rude and all the rest of them, and, fell into a contract negotiation and went out and started ECW, and the rest is history.
And those of you may, if you're not 100% sure, we're talking about Paul Heyman, of course. But Paulie Dangerously, he of the mega mullet and giant portable phone. And, we always talk about interesting clips that we see all the time. And, of course, one of Joey Watts' favorite clip on YouTube involves an incident that happened actually right here in Augusta, Georgia. And that's an interview with Tommy Rich. Tommy Rich had just kind of leapt from being a heel back into being a face. And Paulie Dangerously was his manager. And in this particular interview, Paulie Dangerously comes out and begs Tommy Rich to come back, to which Tommy Rich, as Joey would like to say, goes, "Well, I told you once, I told you twice, if I tell you again, I'm going to have to kick your butt." Basically, and this event actually was filmed, if you pay attention, was filmed, and we were kind of wondering, but we were filmed, and after they showed the ring and they showed the wood barrier around the ring, it was filmed as Miss Kitty's, which is, of course, more recent people know that as the Honky Tonk.
That's right, the Honky Tonk. I wonder if Joey Watts hangs out there.
I don't know. I think he's a country club. Coyotes more. Actually, I think usually when we talk about country places, he usually mentions the Silver Bullet.
The Silver Bullet.
Which I'm not even sure if that place is even still open.
Well, speaking of Silver Bullet, we're going to talk about James J. Dillon, the legendary manager of the Four Horsemen. That's right, Four Horsemen right again. J.J. Dillon, again, another mouthpiece that could really sell the whole faction of the Four Horsemen.
And the beauty thing about J.J. Dillon is J.J. Dillon, much like another wrestling manager, Paul Ellering, of the Road Warriors, was not just a character manager. He was a manager in the true sense that he took care of all business for the Four Horsemen as wrestlers. He really did take care of the booking, hotel arrangements, and everything to that nature. So he really was a true manager, and he actually did come from a business background.
See, fans, that's where real life and wrestling life kind of intermingles there. And now we're going to possibly jump to one of my favorite parts, is we're going to talk about the women, the female managers that we've seen in wrestling here in the South. And the one at the top of the list that Rocket and I recently saw at CWA, no, not Miss Harden, told you, is Baby Doll, a perfect 10.
Ooh, yeah. She looks good now, as she did.
She certainly did. Baby Doll, she was in time a part of that Dusty Rhodes feud.
Yep. manager, valet for Tully Blanchard, and of course kind of followed him over to, speaking of the Four Horsemen. But that was all at the beginning that led up to the Four Horsemen in late 1985.
That's right, that's right. And speaking of Four Horsemen, in the late 90s when WCW was taking headway over WWF at the time, we saw Deborah McMichael come on and be a manager.
And that was, she wasn't the only manager. I mean, she was, of course, the manager for Mondo Michael, but there was also a woman.
That's right, a woman.
Who was involved as manager for her husband, Chris Benoit. Of course, we won't go off into the Benoit events as of late, but that was the tail end of the Four Horsemen situation. Had a lot to do. She had a lot to do with Jarrett, Jeff Jarrett, coming into the Four Horsemen. Of course, for us wrestling fans, true wrestling fans, we like to call that the faux horsemen. The faux as in F-A-U-X. The faux horsemen, because let's be honest, that's not the worst version of the Four Horsemen. Maybe they were the Poor Horsemen. You know what I mean? When you got Ric Flair as your only really worth a Four Horsemen, and he's hurt, not there all the time. So.
And from the WCW days, we also remember Miss Elizabeth.
Miss Elizabeth. Not really so much a manager in WCW as she was kind of like dragged along by the NWO and reunited with
Randy
Savage. But she was more of a manager by way of Randy Savage. And
by way of association.
Yeah. By way of association. Yeah, but an odd manager nevertheless, because she really was kind of more like the old school of wrestling managers. The old wrestling managers used to pretty much just come to the ring with the wrestler, collect their gear, go sit down, and then come in pretty much when the match was over.
And there was one particular manager in WCW that had made a career as a female wrestler, and that is Sherry Martel.
Sherry Martel, women's champion AWA.
And Sherry Martel was the manager of Harlem Heat in WCW.
Sherry Martel, a year or two ago, I inducted into the Wrestling Hall of Fame. And of course, she's not with us anymore. But she went on to manage other wrestlers. Left the area, WWE, WWF, Shawn Michaels. So.
Certainly a time we want to remember.